Good evening, all of my fellow travelers on Spaceship Earth. I am trying to spin up. I have more little black cat hairs all over my screen. I have no earthly idea which cat would possibly have done that. How you doing tonight, Brent? All right. So, the new version of this, now we've got our freighter tootling along, and he's ready to go. And then, oh yeah, this is funny. Da 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 da. Things. I was class yesterday. This morning was me going to the advisor at CU to figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do with the world. And she sent this long email. Oof. So, yesterday's class was okay. I make the same mistake. Sorry, Sarge. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Go to bed. Feel better. I know that going to bed won't actually make it feel better, but I hope you feel better. My dear, dear friend, I hope you feel better. So yeah, I taught class on Sunday, and every time I hit that point, it's always sort of a thing where it's like I hit this point where I'm no longer the fun, happy-go-lucky kind of wild and woolly teacher that tells funny jokes, but I have to start settling in and becoming that teacher. And it's like, I hate that. But I always end up with the same problem, which is I'll end up with a squad of about 4 boys. And they just start doing all the stupid stuff in the middle of the class. And it's the same thing happened this last time. And really what it boils down to is I should have separated them at the end of the morning when they couldn't have handled it. But I didn't, because once you do that, that's a line in the sand. Once you lay down the law, it becomes a much different class. You know what I mean? Like, if you can hold the class together without having to crack the whip, then it's just a much more pleasant class all the way around. But the last 3 times that I have worked at this center, it has been the same thing. I've had 2 kids that knew each other, or 4 kids that knew each other, and they just bounce off of one another and become this core chatterbox that sits in the center of the classroom and makes fun of things and makes fun of other kids. And these guys were really disruptive, and I really should have done it differently. And the next time I'm going to do this, I know exactly how I'm going to address it. I'm going to take one of the 4 kids and I'm going to move him over to a chair. And I'm going to say, that's the hot box chair. I only have one. So if any of you other 3 screw around, you go to the hot box chair. To which the kid will go, well, where do I go? And I'm like, you get kicked out. And that should at least put the pressure on all 4 of them to behave. The benefit that I have as a teacher is I can kick the kids out of these classes. I have to. And then their parents have to pay for the classes again. Not on me. But I hate that. It's not the way I do things. It's not my nature. I'm not the kind of person that cracks whips and yells at people and punishes people. That's not my style. Yep. Well, and I can be, but as soon as that happens, I don't want to make jokes anymore. You know what I mean? I don't want to tell funny stories anymore. I don't want to be interesting anymore. I just want to get you out of my classroom as fast as possible. And that's why it gets sad, is because it's not an enjoyable class. And the saddest part about the whole thing was it overshadows the fun stuff. There was one girl in this class, and she was like sitting straight in front of me. And during lunch, she goes, "What kind of music do you listen to?" And I'm like, "You won't believe me if I tell you." And she goes, "Try me." I'm like, "Well, naturally, I'm a Gen Xer, so I listen to 80s music." She goes, "That makes sense." I said, "And I listen to K-pop." And she just stopped. And she goes, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "What's your favorite group?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're gatekeeping me. I love it." And I'm like, "Well, Seraphim." And she goes, "Oh." And like, you can just see it on her face. You're like, "Wait a minute. Did you just pick a random group? Okay, well then who's your favorite singer?" And I'm like, "Well, Chaewon usually, but Kazuha is cool too. And Sakura are both cool because they're both from Japan." And all of a sudden her entire demeanor changed because she was like, "You really do listen to K-pop and you follow K-pop." And so I was like going through the whole thing, and I'm like, "Used to be Dreamcatcher. I like them too." I just like the way that La Seraphim, their story. I like what they're after. I like what they stand for. And so, it's just this whole long discussion. And that was cool because, like, I connected with this kid because she was like, "Okay, I had you pegged as some old guy, but here you are lining up." Because I asked her what her favorite group was, and she was like, G Idol. And I'm like, "I like G Idol too." And they came out with KDA at the same time. And I like that group as well. I just think and I'm like actually engaging in a reasonable discussion with this kid. And the kid's like, "I thought you were, you could see in her brain." She's like, "I thought he was an old fogey, but he's actually pretty cool." So that was cool. Because of course I listen to K-pop. I love K-pop. And not just BTS. I actually don't like the Bulletproof Boy Scouts that much at all. But I like that was a fun thing. That's the kind of things that make me like being a teacher. Random kid. But she was one of the quiet ones. She sat quietly, listened to everything I said all morning, together and with it. And when she left, she was like, "It's a bummer I'm not going to be in your class anymore," because I only was pitch hitting one class. She's going to be with another teacher. That's cool. But she was like, "Well, I'd like to have..." She actually, at one point in time, I make the joke every time that I'm bribable. Especially if anybody asks me how many questions are on the final test or whatever. And I'm like, "I can't tell you, but I'm bribable. You have chocolate?" Because it's my ongoing joke, right? I'm bribable by chocolate. And she was like, "What kind of chocolate do you like?" I was like, "You don't need to bribe me." I make the joke because, of course, by state law, I can't do anything to influence the final test. So the only thing I can influence are the quizzes, and I don't collect the quizzes. So doesn't matter. So I literally have no influence over their pass-fail rate. So it's an ongoing joke. But the class before that, the kid that I was in that class with a kid, and I made that joke at the very beginning. I was bribable, and at the end of the class, she brought me a candy bar. She's like, she was 18, so she didn't need to worry about the test, but she was just there to make sure, because she was neurodivergent like me, so she really wanted to double check, make sure she was being a little OCD like my dad. That endeared her to me. I mean, like, I was like, I read that in you. I read that you chose the ADD. I've been yelled at so much now that I'm OCD about everything, so I'm taking the 30-hour course even though I'm over 18, just because I want to make sure I have learned exactly everything for this test. And of course, as you might imagine, the only kid that had a perfect score on the first try missed 0 answers, which makes some sense. But she endeared herself to me. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So, but at the end, she gave me a candy bar. She wasn't even really bribing me. She just gave me a candy bar because I had made that joke. And she's like, I had this candy bar, so I'm giving it to you. And I'm like, that's very sweet of you, man. Love you, man. It's stuff like that, though, that makes me want to be a teacher and makes me like being a teacher. That's why I like it and enjoy it. And it's a bummer that this last class, I actually did connect to that kid. And these other kids ruined the entire class for me. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to work there. And I'm going to be working there through all of the Thanksgiving break. And it's so... ugh. And I have not had a solid class yet where they haven't been that way. So that's all right. That's all right. That's the problem. This particular class is this particular location is inner city. And I'm usually working out in the burbs. And man, that says the staff guy that worked there, he is cool. The guy the office guy, he's so nice and so good to me. Because like my back is screwed up still, and so I can't bend over. And that class, they trashed the classroom, and I'm required to clean it, and I just can't do that. So usually up here, when I'm out in the burbs, I can get the kids to do the cleanup themselves, but not this one. A, there's way too many of them, and B, they all rush the door, and so I can't hold them back long enough. And so it makes it too difficult. But then he came in and he grabbed the vacuum and started cleaning up the floor for me while I was doing the rest of it. Because I could do the tables just fine. I can do the desks. That's not a problem. The problem I've got is getting down on the floor. I can't do that very much anymore. So that's just cool. Because everybody else in all these locations out here, they're like, make sure you clean the floor. Holy crap. So that's like, anyway. That's where we are. I'm not really very focused tonight. I can already tell. I appreciate you guys sticking around. There we go. I've managed to get I managed to get my screen and OBS here to set up properly in here, but it was all so small that oh well. Back in here, where I'm working on trying to this scene was originally between two other characters. The problem is Mayrel is now in charge of this, so Mayrel is going to not be as weird as Bennett was. There we go. Just fitting that together there. So we've got Navin, Mayrel. It's raining. Navin says it's fallout. Not nuclear, but all the things that were vaporized in the disaster. Buildings, vehicles. And Mayrel says people. And then they both look at the rain. And then Navin says, so what do you think her story is, Lieutenant? And Mayrell's going to play coy. Who? And Navin, who? The girl. Uh, What's eating you, Ensign? And Navin says, the math doesn't add up. Silver Coast is about 270 light years from here, right? Yes. And we stopped using English about 480 years ago. So in order for her to get here in 480 years, she would have had to have traveled no more than 50% light speed. And then Mayrell looks down and looks over. Okay, that's more than 320 years for the people on board ship, right? And that's a long time, so it doesn't add up. That makes sense. And then Mayrell says, well, maybe she could have come from a sleeper ship. And Navin says, a human sleeper? That'd be a new one. Humans joined the Unity after the MT drive was invented. Why would you choose to sleep when you can travel in space? And then Mayrell's like, well, I mean, humans are weird. We had folks that traveled by animal and carriage long after the invention of the automobile. Yeah, but you didn't run a 30% risk of death riding in a horse and buggy. Okay, that is weird. Then we move to the next scene. I'm feeling like these two pages don't fit right yet. So we'll get back in there and mess with that at some point here. I feel like this, as fun as this little section was, I don't think I want to do this. I think we're going to do something else. Because then I can put this here and go to my scene of something weird is happening. That doesn't sound right. In fact, I think I want to take this and cut it, paste it, and then we're going to move temporarily this to here, and then go here. Take this one. I'm just gonna move it up. Nope, you went the wrong way. To there. Bridge pilot house. Transfer complete. The coop is now cold and dark. Legend and came in signing off. I probably should doctor that, but that works for right now. I feel like that was good. In my long-standing tradition of making 80s-esque spacecraft, sometimes, Blender, sure would be nice if you actually, like, helped me out here. Naturally. Oh, yeah, that's not going to work. Doesn't take a genius to see that ain't going to work. How are you guys crisscrossed? How did you manage to pull that off? Just in time for me to really work this. Just saying. Part of it is that. That is a weird frickin' angle right there. That's part of our problem. Which I'm going to go ahead and put the modifier on to triangulate it. Because that'll cut that into it like it's supposed to. I don't want to mess with it. See, now it's triangulated. So it no longer acts funny. Although that is a weird way to triangulate the thing, but you know, hey, float your boat, I guess. Because the big trick that I'm trying to do is this one and see if it works. Right? Being that that's the inside of the cockpit right there. That's what we're looking for. Does this work? It's actually not so bad. It's not 100% easy to tell, though. That's part of the problem. right? Because this is fine for that thickness of this window right through here, like so. And this has to go back enough that you can put a Chakrana back here, because the Chakrana pilots would have to sit cab forward sort of design thing. That weird way that only Chakrana does, where you have to have them sitting sort of belly down on the chairs. So we have to have room for their back leg. All right. This is too close, I feel, to the bottom of the hull. We got 1 minute left, and I'm gonna bomb out of here. But for right now, there we go. We're getting there. All right, guys. I think we have probably done not the right thing. That's all right. We'll figure it out in the morning, right? We'll fix it tomorrow on tomorrow's stream. And I may have to just redo it. It's not that big of a deal to redo. So if I have to redo it, it's not going to hurt. So that's all right. Got it. We got it under control. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you tomorrow morning on tomorrow morning's stream. And as always, keep your eyes on the stars. Good night.